Okay guys, my face isn't going to be in this one, just kind of a close-up of the gear we use for treating mites. So I have built and used all kinds of different mite treatment, or oxalic acid vaporizers. I've built ones that run off a torch. I've built the little pan styles, the glow plugs. I've built the ones that run off a heat gun. What else have I built? I've built these that are pretty much adapted off the Pro Vape 110. This one's pretty much an exact copy, has a digital controlled thermostat, temperature controller. This one I kind of prefer. This is kind of my new model. This was actually a prototype. The ones I made were the ones I sold were a little cleaner than this, but this is my latest model. I figured we only use it at one temperature, so there's no need to have a digitally controlled temperature controller. So this one, it just has a temperature switch, and it's set at 200 degrees Celsius, which is right around just under 400 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's a pretty safe range for us to use oxalic acid, because as soon as you dump that oxalic acid in this cup, it's instantly going to drop its temperature down to usually below 300 degrees Fahrenheit, and then it's going to slowly build its temperature back up until that oxalic acid has all been sublimated and shot out this little spout. Here's the little cups I use to put my doses of oxalic acid in. I put a half teaspoon in here for two brood chambers, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, but I'll put it in upside down, and then I'll stick this little nozzle inside the hive. I'll turn it over, give it a couple taps, and within a minute it's all sublimated and this thing's up to temperature and ready for the next hive. It's a pretty quick process. So the reason I went and have kind of locked onto this design is kind of twofold. One, it's quick. I can well, let's go three reasons. One, it's pretty quick. I can treat a hive in under 1 minute. Last year I treated a yard that had 36 hives, and I think it took me 24 or 26 minutes to do it. So it's pretty quick for oxalic acid. It's pretty lightweight compared to this. There's a lot less going on, so I like that. Another thing I like about this unit is it only runs off 300 watt heating band right here, so I can run that off a small generator like you see over here. I can run off a power cord driven from my house, and I have a built-in 400 watt inverter on my pickup truck that will run these just fine. You can buy 500 watt inverters off Amazon that have the prongs that hook up to a battery, and those will run this thing just fine as well. So it's pretty portable as long as you have a battery or a battery with an inverter or a little small generator to run it. So that's our vaporizer. A couple things to go with the vaporizer. So very rarely do I ever have this little spout get clogged up. The only times it's ever happened is if I try to treat shortly after a rainstorm. And what happens if I stick this spout in my little hole, it gets wet, and that cools this off enough that the oxalic acid, it turns back into crystal form before it exits the spout, and that'll plug up this area. And when that happens, this cap will usually just kind of pop. It doesn't blow off. I've never had blow off, but I've had it kind of pop loose a little bit. So I usually use a little piece of wire and just keep it with my stuff, and if that happens, I can run it in real quick a couple times and clear that plugged area. But usually I don't run into that problem because I rarely have to treat after a rainstorm, but sometimes you have to treat when you have to treat. So also to go with that, I have my oxalic acid. You can buy this at the hardware store as it's labeled under wood bleach. Just look at the label and make sure it's truly oxalic acid. I buy mine in bulk. You can buy it off Amazon or eBay. This one's made by Florida Laboratories. It's pretty cheap, and like one of these bags will last me a couple years, and I'm treating 50 to 75 hives several times. So I usually transfer it into these little mason jar, and I just have a half teaspoon measuring cup, or teaspoon measuring spoon I guess, and I can take a charge and I can put it inside the little cap and it's ready to go. If I have a hive that's 3 brood chambers high, I'll maybe add 2 cups. If it's really windy, I'll add a little more if I have a hive that's got a lot of cracks and I'm losing a lot of vapor outside of the hive. I'll also maybe add 2 scoops. It shouldn't hurt the bees to have a little extra in there, and anything extra kind of does exit the hive anyways. So next down our row is personal protective equipment. So over here, I always wear leather gloves when I'm treating, just because this cup gets hot. It's up to 400 degrees when we're working with it, and when I'm taking these cups and I'm trading them out, putting them on and off, if you touch this, it might burn you. So I always wear leather gloves. I always wear a pair of glasses. I have never had it happen, but theoretically, if this end plugs up, you could blow this off and have some liquid oxalic acid splash up and around, and I don't want that in my eyes. Like I said, I've never had it happen, but I wear glasses just in case. Probably the most important thing, well, I'll just say the most important thing you can wear is a respirator. And not just any woodworking respirator will work. You have to make sure that the cartridges you use are labeled for organic vapor. So when you're out shopping, you'll see here it says organic vapor acid gas cartridge. So this is what works to protect us from the oxalic acid vapors. If you do not wear a respirator and you catch one breath, get one breath of oxalic acid in your lungs, you'll remember it for the rest of your life. It takes your breath away. You cough for minutes. I mean, it's terrible, and it's not good for you. So make sure anytime you're vaporizing, I don't care what the wind's doing or how good you think you're going to be at avoiding it, wear a respirator with an organic acid vapor cartridge to keep you safe. I don't want your lungs getting destroyed because you're lazy or careless or think you can outsmart the wind or the vapor. All right, so drill. I'll show you here in a minute how I treat my hives, but I drill a hole in the bottom board of my hive. I use a 1/4-inch hole, and then when I treat the hive, this spout can just kind of hang in there while it's vaporizing, and while it's hanging there, I can take care of other tasks. So that kind of covers it for the equipment I use. If you have any questions, feel free to ask, or if you think I've missed something and I need to include it, also let me know. Oh, sorry, one more thing I saw. This little bolt, but I usually keep a little screwdriver with me. Every time I go and treat the hives, remember we drilled a hole in the back of our hive, and the bees, it's a big enough hole the bees can cruise in and out of it, but they rarely do. It's small and a pain for them. But before I treat, go back and treat the hive, I'll take a little screwdriver and I'll just push it into that hole to make sure if they've propolized the hole closed, that it's freed up before I stick this spout, because I don't want to get this little spout plugged up with propolis. So that kind of covers it for our equipment. We will come back here in a second and we'll treat a couple hives, and I'm actually going to go against my recommendation, and I'm not going to wear my respirator when we treat, because I want to be able to talk to you guys and explain what I'm doing. So we'll talk to you in a minute.